Hi guys, this is Colleen Swindoll Thompson, and I am so sorry that our live event did not work out. I so wanted it to. But today we get to be together, and yes, I have a huge neck collar on because I want to tell you a story. So it was a little bit before Christmas, and I went to the doctor because I have a huge spine issue. Already had one spine surgery that I thought I would die with, but I didn't die, which is a good thing. However, I never imagined that I would go through another surgery, which was even more involved. So as the Christmas bells were ringing, as everyone was wrapping presents, I was laying in my bed, taking medicine, hoping that my neck would fuse together. It's going to take probably a year from now for it to work, which is just like forever. And I know at times it feels right now like the virus going around where all the discussions will go on forever. And I just want to encourage you and give you a word of hope. What came to mind the other day was the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Daniel 3, in the Old Testament, the book of Daniel, chapter 3. If you have known the Lord for a long time, you probably saw the little felt creatures that they put up on the felt thing at Sunday school. And to be honest, they were in a really tough situation. Nebuchadnezzar was the king. He was just not a nice guy at all. And the three men followed Jesus, and they did not believe that they would worship the other gods and that was okay. So Daniel tells us, I'm going to read part of it to you. Daniel tells us that they were, that the king decided that they needed to be thrown into the fire. So 4 times it's repeated that they were bound up, they were tied up, they were, they were knotted, and then being thrown into a blazing fire. Now just stop and think about that for a minute. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what was going to come out in the end. For all they knew, they'd be thrown in and die immediately like the soldiers that had thrown them in, because he heated it up 7 times the normal level of heat. So what I want to encourage you with is, I know that the heat's been turned up. Some of you don't have jobs. Some of you do not have a system to even think about tomorrow. And I totally get it. I'm a caregiver of a son with disabilities, and my husband is working to try and help people in this disaster. And we are finding our hope in the fact that God's protection and his provision are completely in his sovereign hand. Would I want this? No. Could God have prevented it? He could have. But he chose for me to go through this because there were things I needed to learn. When I looked at one of the commentaries, which I absolutely love to do, it's Calvin's commentaries. And it says about that passage, God is sufficiently powerful to preserve us. And if not, we are prepared for death. They point us out to what ought to raise our minds above all trials, meaning the trials are to bring to mind the things we need to work on. So as you've been quarantined for a while, I'm sure that you've gotten frustrated with your family, that you've wanted to go camping or somewhere, but the parks are closed, so that wouldn't have worked out. Or maybe you had to delay a surgery. Maybe you're in the hospital just longing for help. I get it. I want to tell you that it wasn't certain that I would come out of this surgery alive, or that I would come out of this surgery without being paralyzed. I clung to my husband and bawled as I was getting ready to go into surgery for probably as long as I could. It felt like a second, and I wanted it to be days. But we went through it, and I have learned that God is sufficiently powerful to preserve and to protect. It doesn't mean that you'll be free of being sick, or that for sure you're going to be fine with your provision. It means that he's calling us to lean on him, calling us to let go of anything that has bound us up. Because the end of the story with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is The only thing that was burned in the fire were the bounds and knots that tied them up. Isn't that incredible? So everything else, their clothing, their shoes, their head wraps, all of that wasn't touched. It didn't even smell like smoke, is what one of the commentaries said. So they came out of the fiery furnace completely free. Just like you will be completely free at some point. I don't know. And I don't think the question is that we need to know. Remember, God didn't answer Job's questions. And he probably won't answer a lot of yours and a lot of mine, because he wants us to just trust in his sovereignty and in his protection. So I want you to know Debbie is such a dear friend. I'm so, so thankful that she's allowed me to speak into your heart. And if you want some more encouragement or information about how to go through crises or how to survive and reframe your life because something has happened that has changed everything, I get it. Please go ahead and look at reframingministries.com. Again, that's reframingministries.com. And what you'll find, there's a ton of resources, but also a book that I love the title of called When Life Isn't Fair, What They Didn't Tell Us in Sunday School. Now, I was raised in Sunday school. I mean, I was at church all the time growing up. But I wrote this little book with the greatest car on it because the guy who did this knew. I loved it. And I wrote this, and it's the writings of my thoughts and my emotions as I was raising my son, and stories about how we can apply our challenges and not be hindered by them, but to look at them as God's way of changing our direction, because his direction is perfect. Another book that I wrote is called Reframing Life, focusing on God when life gets sideways. We can't focus on life because then we try to control it, and that's really not possible. But what is possible is to focus on the Lord when life makes a direction that you didn't plan on having. So I've got a year in this thing. I'm hoping our quarantine isn't going to last that long, but take some time to really evaluate. Are you allowing the Lord to protect you as he chooses? Or are you being a control freak like I usually am, where I want to control everything around me? And we can't do that. That's not possible. His protection and his provision, he will provide for you. There was a time years ago when I had no job, 3 kids, single parent. I had nothing. And the Lord provided for our family, for my kids and I. And I'll never forget those days. I didn't like them. They were very, very hard. But they taught me what to hold on to, which was Jesus. And that's what we cling to, you guys. You can turn off the news, go for a walk, look at the trees, look at the nature that he created. He is surrounding you with everything that's beautiful if you'll just slow and take notice. So become more calm as you trust in his protection and provision. And then also, maybe there's something that needs clarity in your life. I don't know if there's frustrations in your marriage or with your kids. Maybe something's happened at work that needs greater clarity and you're seeking him for that. A lot of times he's trying to speak to us, but we're just really busy. And this has been the perfect time to not be busy. I had to slow down and be quarantined December 2nd of 2019. And still, I'm not up to full speed, even though I want to be. So we want to have a clear vision of what God is. He's our protector and our provider. And yes, there are times where he calls us to persevere because it's changing our character. And then as we sit in the quiet, there's a calm peace that can come when you invite Jesus in to just care for your worried heart. I just really, really want to encourage you to do that. And finally, for clarity, if you don't know Jesus and you feel so confused, I want to tell you that Jesus is your answer. It's not going to be found in the vaccines. My son has autism, so I get chasing all of that. And by the way, it's Autism Awareness Month. So awesome for caregivers and mom and dads taking care of autistic kids. But the other thing is for clarity. God, where do you want me to be? What do you want me to focus on? Where have I made some mistakes? Can you provide a clear path? As I focus on you, and as Psalm 119 says, he makes our way straight when his word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. There's nothing more wonderful than for our belief for a Christian to shine and be at peace while the world is questioning everything. They're going nuts, asking questions that we don't have answers for, spending time on things that don't matter. Your kids matter, your marriage matters, your partner matters, and more importantly, your soul matters. So I hope this has been encouraging for you. Let's all persevere. Let's trust in him. And let's see what he does through this. You may be a light that shines through a really dark community. And I want to encourage you to cling to him. All right, you guys. I hope you check out Reframing Ministries through Insight for Living. And I'm going to be in prayer for you, and I hope this was encouraging to you. Thanks, Debbie, for letting me have your audience and to share my heart with them.